Hey, you fucks, this is Everyone's Wrong. I'm Dave, a.k.a. The Great White North.
I'm Dustin Dark, a.k.a. Fat Guerrera.
Why do I always have to go after you? This is Ed Smith, a.k.a. The Noof.
It's always such a letdown to hear Ed Smith the Noof, I gotta be honest.
I know. It's like this great fucking build-up, and then... Duh.
I'm Daffy Duck.
I'm sorry I bring the game to town for you there, Ed. You should probably step up. I mean, you are the professor. You play all the mind games over there with your fucking broken legs and shit.
His floating wheelchair?
Yeah, sure. I guess since it's clear plastic and you're retarded, it's floating, yes.
Yeah. Well, that only happens after he hits his medical marijuana.
I thought we were still talking about Professor X.
Well, yours isn't medical. Ed's is.
I think the difference is where you're standing on the globe. I don't think the weed is much different.
No. The reason for ingesting it is, though, right?
Hey, Ed, are you smoking because it makes your life better?
Yeah.
No, same reasons.
Ah, fuck you.
Boom.
Son of a bitch.
Hey, you can't fucking corner me, bitch. You don't have the game, man.
Listen.
Fat Guerrera's in town, man. I'm taking over this.
Okay, Fat Guerrera, how does marijuana make your life better?
Well, it makes me far less of an asshole.
Okay, define far less of an asshole.
Listen, Bill Clinton, I'm not going to define it
because you're a fucking asshole right now.
Okay, I didn't say it makes me a wonderful human being. I said it makes me less of an asshole. Okay, so you don't want to know what happens, Dave.
Because I've got this image in my head of Dustin. He's got his pipe in his hand or his one hitter or whatever the fuck it is that he uses. He takes a blast. He looks at his computer. Yeah, who am I going to troll now? I think you go right from blasting to trolling.
I'll have you know that I do all my trolling on my cell phone. I don't go to the computer for it. I troll mobily.
You need access.
Yeah, dude, I'm at work trolling. Are you kidding me? Dude, I'm taking a shit. I'm talking about some cues. Oh yeah, man, it's a all day thing. It doesn't end.
That work.
Yeah. Well, Joe Rogan's like, oh, these guys fucking tweet, 16 hours a day. Do they not have jobs? Oh no, I'm sure they do. Look, if you're gonna do something, don't half-ass it, man. Commit and follow through. You gotta be an artist, man. Pinky's out.
What? Pink? Oh, okay. Drinking tea now.
Yeah, man. That's just the way. You gotta be proper, my bitch.
That's fitting. That's fitting for tonight.
All right. Well, tonight's first topic is Antifa gets beat up again.
Well, I mean, they so do. Their Nazi punching never goes well for them.
Not unless it's like 20 on 1.
Well, that's true. You got me there. Well, we're going to be spending all night in the UK. We're going to be talking about some of the problems they're having with freedom of expression. And how else would you spin it, Dave? Any input?
I would say, and this is going to be fucking completely biased, but I'm going to say it's the death of the Churchill free speech era.
I would always push it even further. I'd say it's already dead. Free speech is no longer in existence in the UK.
Was it?
Well, I mean, people are getting arrested for tweets and Facebook posts.
I mean, they have like Speaker's Corner, though. They had like a free speech zone.
They're kicking people out.
Okay, right. But if you have to have a speaker's corner, it seems to me that is insinuating that you don't have that ability elsewhere, or is it a particular place for debate? Do I misunderstand?
That's tradition. Yeah, you're misunderstanding. It's tradition. Speaker's corner isn't designated your spot that you have to go and gripe about society or use your free speech. It's just a spot where people go to do it to get an audience, and people know that traditionally people will be in speaker's corner talking about the issues of the day, and debates happen there. In our society, pop culture's picked up on speaker's corner. So our version of MTV, Much Music has a speaker's corner where people go down, they get in front of the mic or in front of the camera, and they say whatever it is that they want to say that's bothering them, or even what's making them happy.
We have something like that too. We call it America.
Oh God. But Speaker's Corner in Hyde Park, London, has been a tradition that goes back over a century, where people like even Karl Marx and Lenin went and actually spoke there and gave addresses concerning their dissent from the opinions of the day. So it has a long and fiery history of being a place for heated debate and being able to communicate with other people. And to find that it's under, it's almost gone. It's scary.
Well, no, it wouldn't be gone for people that they saw that was if Tommy had the same views as them, they wouldn't be taking him away from there. Right? He could go in there and say whatever the fuck he wanted about Christianity or about atheism or about any other number of things, but because he's going in there speaking out against Islam, that's why because they're fucking scared of more stabbings and terrorist attacks. Let's be honest.
Yes. Well, true, but there's also the fact that there's a high Muslim content that go there to preach. That's what they've been using it lately as, and people have been getting Osmond warnings, which are basically the police come to your home and say you're on a death threat list. You got to watch what you're doing because you have 24-hour security because you're targeted by Al Shabaab or Hamas or some terrorist organization. So it is becoming a scary place to go.
I can imagine living in a country where you have to have systems set up to warn your citizens that the terrorists want to kill them. I don't think America has something like that. There's okay, so ISIS wants to kill, let's say, I don't know, some random asshole that lives here. Good fucking luck, my dude, getting here and fucking with them. It's not, I don't think we have to worry. They've got themselves in a situation where they need a particular, way of going around and warning people that their terrorism problem is coming to their particular doorstep.
Let's be realistic.
Holy fuck.
There was citizens in Canada or US that the police knew were going to kill somebody or had threatened to kill somebody, they would go and kick their fucking door in.
Fucking right, and they'd kick their ass while they were at it. Yeah, which is fine.
Justin will just turn around and give him $10.5 million.
But Justin's not the police, right? I don't know. You didn't see the video that Dustin said it's a couple years old, but there's this fucking, I don't know, he's probably got a knife or something. There's 20 British cops, and he's chasing them around. And there's 20 of them, and he's chasing them. They're running behind cars and behind fucking brick. I'm like, that bastard would be shot in North America.
Oh, yeah. And I wouldn't feel bad for him either. Well, and okay, so it's this video that goes around on Facebook where, this guy has a machete, and there's a bunch of cops, like I said, about 20 cops, and they're around a car. And what they do is they keep getting him to lunge at them, and then they all run away. until, like, about 8 of them show up with large riot shields, trap the guy, and take away his machete. Which I guess is... Like, how do you do suicide by cop in the UK? I don't get it.
They talk you to death.
Like, what?
Those regular bobbies that were there at first wouldn't have guns.
Right, regular bobbies.
Well, that's what they're called.
Yeah, I know. It's like, so...
British.
I hesitate to use the word
Well, I wouldn't. There's 20 of you and 1 of him. So let's say this, for instance, Dustin. Okay, so this guy, he's got the machete. He's chasing the cops around, right? Hello, fuck bar. And then the cops, they run away. My kid happens to be walking the other way, and instead of going back towards the cops, this fucking Allahu Akbar decides to run in the opposite direction. My kid's walking out at the same time, and he takes my kid's head fucking clean off because they didn't take action, because they were waiting for the fucking gobshites with the shields instead of fucking putting a cap in his ass like they fucking should have. Like, you're there to arrest people, not run away and play fucking grab ass. Like, they were playing fucking grab ass. Like, seriously. Like,
they were playing
he could have got away. Because when he was running at them, they were literally running away and hiding behind things. He could have just gone in the other direction. I'm not saying they couldn't have caught up to him, but think of the damage a machete could do to a child in the meantime. And don't give me he's not going to hit anybody. He's got a machete. He's going after people.
Yeah. He's a peaceful guy, though.
Yeah. I'm just saying that's a real fucking broken system. Now, in the 80s, 90s, 1970s, the reason why they call them Bobby is because of the stick that they used to fucking use on people. So you would have had a situation where they had those long ass sticks, and they would have just beat the fucking brakes off the guy back in the day. Now they run away from him. It's crazy.
Oh yeah, we used to put a phone book on your head and then hit you with the fucking nightstick. That way you just get the concussed.
Yeah. Anyway, so which one are we doing first? That or?
I guess we can talk about the Sargon thing. That'll be a short segment, and then we're going to be talking about Tommy Robinson and some journalists and activists have been banned from the UK. So I guess let's get the quick one first.
All right. Well, we'll jump into a break and we'll be right back.
All right.
All right, we're back from the break, and like we said, we're going to be talking about the Sargon Antifa debacle.
So what happened is a couple of weeks ago in early March, YouTuber Sargon Akkad, which we've talked about quite a bit here on the show. You'll probably remember him from the Battle of Pepe's series that we did or doing. We're not quite done with it, I guess. Where he debates, alt-right figure Richard Spencer. And he does live shows from time to time where he will do what he calls This Week in Stupid Live, or he'll have some kind of sit-down discussion with the figure, and he's just starting this up. And he sat down with Yaron Brook, which is a Jewish gentleman that is the chairman of the Ayn Rand Institute. Ayn Rand being like an ANCAP objectionist, very much believes in a small government and a free market capitalist system. And they were accused of being Nazis and shut down. We're going to get into this article. It's from Reason.com, and it's called Antifa Shut Down, a Planned Debate Between Yaron Brook and Sargon of Akkad at the King's College. And this is by Robbie Sove. Antifa agitators shut down an event at King's College in London featuring Ayn Rand Institute President Yaron Brook and anti-political correctness YouTube personality Carl Benjamin, a.k.a. Sargon of Akkad. Oh, he also AKAs. There you go, guys. Violence ensued and several security guards suffered injuries. according to a statement put out by King's Libertarian Society, the student group sponsoring the event. Yeah, they actually hit some security guards and of course didn't kill anyone, but they definitely injured some people.
One was in hospital.
Yeah.
One was put in hospital.
Yeah, for watching the door at a university. It's shameful. This was an act of violence, clearly intended to silence Yaron and Sargon's planned debate via a series of jackbooted totalitarian tactics that unfortunately proved successful tonight, the group said. On Twitter, Antifa activists celebrated their victory. And this has a picture of the Twitter post. By the way, guys, we should be going live with video very soon. Where North London Antifa tweets a picture, very creepily, of Yoram Brooks and Sargon of Akkad outside. It says, tonight a group of students and anti-fascist activists successfully shut down an alt-right talk at King's College. Here's alt-right mouthpiece Sargon of Akkad after he was forced to leave the building. No platform for him tonight. Alt-right mouthpiece, Sargon of Akkad.
Listen, if they think that Sargon is alt-right, they don't know what the fuck alt-right means.
Oh, so we have that part of what this show has been us kind of trying to search and grasp exactly what the alt-right is. It's a new political movement coming up on the right, and it seems to be based around ethno-nationalism and group identity, collectivism at its roots. It's a rejection of the Enlightenment ideals, specifically individualism. So
that's Spencer's view of it, though, right?
That's Spencer and Jean-François Guérapi, and several other. I don't want to give these guys, too much of legs. Jared Taylor would be another prominent figure. So in response to this collectivist rising, this anti-liberal rising on the right and the left, a few liberal YouTubers got together to start a new political movement called the Liberalist, and Sargon is the unofficial kind of head of this thing. So they made a website that lays out their principles in a very short and concise way, and it's at liberalist.org/principles. So I want to read through those real quick to see who they're calling alt-right mouthpiece. Go ahead, Ed.
And Yaron Brook is an objectivist. So the purpose of this whole conversation was to see what objectivism had in common with liberalism, or if there was something that they could debate about, to see if where their ideas clashed, and if they could come to a resolution on those principles.
And I would like to add one more thing too.
Mm-hmm.
The most watched thing on YouTube one day was Sargon and Richard Spencer fucking taking jabs at each other. Like
disagreeing.
Yeah. They hate each other.
Yeah. They're like, the alt-right hates Sargon. After that video, the alt-right has been going after Sargon relentlessly. They've tried to turn him into what the internet would call a lolcow for the normies listening. And by the way, the reason they decided to name themselves the Liberalist and the Liberalist Society instead of liberal is that the word liberal has been hijacked by the regressive or the authoritarian left or the SJWs, whatever you want to call them. So they wanted to find a way to separate themselves, and by putting "ist" on the end of it, it indicates that it's an activist movement. That's where the word comes from. So this statement of principles is a list of the values that liberalists hold as ideals. We also recognize that we live in the real world and that no set of principles can ever be fully realized. But promoting this worldview will produce a demonstrably better society than the current alternatives. Individual rights. Protecting the right of the individual must be the highest value of society. To foster mutual tolerance and respect towards the cultivation of the dignity of every person. That is decidedly not collectivist. Democracy. Constitutional democracy is the best way for a free citizenry to maintain a state and resist tyranny. I think that is also a very solid principle.
Yeah,
Economic
but it's not
freedom.
communism.
And I think, and that's why we're going through these. This is what, how often have Antifa actually shown up against the alt-right? I didn't see any of the guys in Charlottesville getting punched the fuck out, okay? We saw one limp-wristed pillow to the face that Spencer got when he was talking about his fucking frog pen a couple years back.
Sure flopped like a soccer player, though, didn't he?
He was certainly knocked back quite a bit. I don't even think they knocked him off his feet with a running punch, if I go back and watch the video. So he didn't flop like a fish. Not that I'm saying that he's got a fucking backbone, because he's a fucking pansy. He talks like a woman, which is fine. Economic freedom. Property rights that begin with personal self-ownership and private property creates the most productive societies.
Sure.
Freedom of speech. Freedom of expression is a necessary and fundamental pillar of a free society. Self-reliance. People possess agency and should be treated as such, because treating people like victims becomes a self-fulfilling prophecy. Blind justice. Yeah. Each individual should be governed by the same laws as their peers without arbitrary discrimination and be presumed innocent until proven guilty by a fair trial. You see, this is explicitly against the alt-right. Because it is against prejudice. They put away discrimination by reinforcing blind justice in the liberalist movement, which I can get behind. That is race blindness in government form. I don't mind that at all. And the last one is secularism. Everybody is free to practice their religion or not, as long as it does not interfere with the rights of others.
Yeah. These are Enlightenment principles. These are nothing new. I mean, these are what classic liberalism was based on.
These are the fundamentals of the United States for the most part, slightly tweaked for a modern language. This is Jeffersonian democracy.
I mean, yeah, these. If you had brought this piece of paper back to the founding fathers, they would not have any issue with any of these.
Except there's no guns. Pew pew.
So that's what Sargon stands for, who they're calling an alt-right mouthpiece, and they're going out of the way to shut down. Real quick, through the Ayn Rand philosophy here, reason. You can't eat your cake and have it too. The essential advice of Rand's philosophy is embrace reason as an absolute. This means choose to face the facts at all times, in all areas, whether at work or at home, in business or in love, no matter what conclusion logically ensues, whether unpleasant or pleasant. The self-interest, I'm trying to summon these up as quick as I can here. Ed, you have something to add?
No, they're talking about rational self-interest, meaning that the individual, they reject altruism. They only embrace self-interest. And they don't mean like at the moment self-interest, like, oh, this, hit a crack is going to make me happy, so I'm going to take that. It means a long-term, development of your life, based on reason. And you basically plan out what you want to do with your life and focus on just that. I mean, like, they don't see things as, I have to sacrifice myself for you. No, I have to live my life for myself. That's basically, I probably botched it a bit, but that's basic objective.
We'll go with that. With capitalism, give me liberty or give me death. The ideal social system Rand holds is laissez-faire capitalism. Economically, this means not today's mixture of freedom and government controls, but a complete separation of state and economics in the same way and for the same reason as the separation of state and church. These aren't ideals that I necessarily agree with. I believe that you do need a government to intervene in destructive practices. You can't convince me that rational self-interest is going to make sure or is going to keep people in line. We got to have a law.
But they do believe in government. They do believe in the rule of law.
Separation of government
and economy.
But what they mean by that, and you can find it on any objectivist video or even Yaron, for instance, they believe in small government that has three functions. Basically, the function to intervene with disputes, form a military, and the third is form a military, settle disputes, and convict criminals. Basically, that's the role of government. That's it. That's all that they think that government should have.
Okay, well, that's just not a realistic view of the world. Okay.
Back to the article and what happened. So we've delved into the background and what the stated purposes of these speakers are, and you're going to have a lot of trouble finding them betraying their values. I've listened to hours and hours of both of these gentlemen speaking, and I would say that they seem to be men of their principles. So, the skirmish between masked Antifa protesters and event organizers was captured on video. It's not clear who threw the first punch, though Antifa obviously initiated the disruption. The shutdown was premeditated. Activists organized it through a Facebook event, KCL Socialist Students, Intersectional Feminist Society, Kashmir Solidarity Movement, KCL LGBT+, KCL Action Palestine Society, KCL Justice for Cleaners.
Wait a minute. Are you telling me that the communists, the feminists, and the Muslims got together?
Yep.
Yes, to make sure these two extreme centrists don't get a word in edgewise. So they go, Yargrind is an objective thinker who's extremely hawkish foreign policy position. He noted on Facebook that both the far left and alt-right consider his opinions anathema. In particular, he's a staunch defender of Israel. I would say that might have to do with, I think he's from Israel. I know he has a lot of family in Israel.
He's originally from Israel. Yeah.
A view that often inflames extremists who agree on little else. Benjamin has a story of making disgusting comments and defending unsavory characters. I'm not sure whether I'd want to sit through a discussion between these two. I would. It was nice. And there are many reasons one might object to both Brooks and Benjamin views on liberal grounds. Okay. And in the link here that we're going to put to this.
Can you read that last sentence? I'm not sure one would defend Benjamin on liberal grounds. Is that what you said?
Libertarian grounds.
Oh, okay.
I'm not sure whether I'd want to sit through a discussion between these two. And there are many reasons one might object to both Brooks and Benjamin's views on libertarian grounds.
Okay.
I'm not sure you can disagree too much with Yaron's discussion on libertarian grounds. The Ayn Rand Institute is one of the thought leaders in the libertarian movement.
Yeah. And they're talking about they're probably social libs.
What do they call themselves? Libertarians?
Yeah, they're on the left, but they're more closer to communists.
God fucking damn it, I can't keep track.
Who, the people that wrote the article or Ayn Rand?
No. When he says on libertarian grounds, they're talking about probably social
okay. Yeah.
So, and by the way, the most delicious part about this is these guys rush in. They set off smoke bombs outside of the room to make sure the fire alarms go off to force an evacuation of the building. They go in, they shove Carl up against one of the walls. He doesn't push. He doesn't shove or anything. You can hear him saying, "What are you doing, man? Let's talk about this." Like even when people are there to assault him, and they don't hit him. Even when people are there to assault him, he tries to reason with them. The measure of a man, largely speaking, is what one does under pressure, and he didn't show a violent tendency.
I'm just saying, I'd be swinging. Sorry, I would. Someone comes out of the blue.
And it says in the article that we're not sure who threw the first punch. I want to say, well, they attacked the security guards on the way in.
And not only that, they pushed one fella, and that's when the fist started flying.
So, there's several videos up, and I'll send, I'll put one link to The Quartering has a really good compilation of videos that he goes through. But you see this nice gentleman in a suit to the left side, and he helps an Antifa guy off the stage, and then you hear what seems to be him saying, hey, don't fucking push me. And then haymakers coming at the guy that he just helped off the stage. And they end up with the Antifa flag, which Sargon now displays behind himself with the Keck flag over top of it in his videos as a trophy. So, I mean, it was a loss. It was a loss.
But the best thing about it is that they thought they had won, like that tweet put out. They thought they had won and stopped them from talking. They actually did the conversation in another location with an audience, but he also live streamed the bitch over the internet. So now not just a group of 100 or 120 people would see it. You're getting hundreds of thousands, or maybe millions worldwide watching.
Well, after it's all said and done, millions, right? Like, maybe not live, but after it's all said and done, millions will have viewed it.
Well, the Streisand effect definitely comes into play in this situation. Someone like me who watches, a lot of this type of content where these two gentlemen are going to sit down and talk, I would have seen it either way. But hundreds of thousands of people that would not have seen it, have only seen it, the discussion and this fight here because of Antifa's actions. It would have been another video that gets 50, 60,000 hits and, everybody goes on. Now everybody's doing remixes of it. People are doing fucking battle coverage of the fucking assault. And here we are talking about it with whatever small pool we gather. So their tactics largely work against them. And I think that's going to be a theme that we see again later on tonight as we go through. They take actions that do not help them. They make it worse. The authoritarian left, I mean, whether it be these fucking red shirts dressed in black with their fucking masks on, or it's the actual United Kingdom government harassing their citizens or Canadian citizens.
Yes.
As far as that goes. So I think that probably, a few more things on this. As the threats were coming in from Antifa before the event took place, the college started cracking down on the event. So at first they had a few hundred tickets sold. I'm pretty sure over 100 tickets sold. And then the college decided, well, only students are going to be allowed to come to this. We're not going to allow people from the outside as a security risk. So a lot of people that bought tickets weren't allowed to go in the first place. Just students from King's University. And then they told them that they could not live stream the event as had been planned beforehand. So, though the college let them set up and it's their venue and they have the right, you can't give in to what is essentially domestic terrorists.
I don't want to sound fucking Jones-esque here, but I mean, so they take away their numbers. They take away...
And their ability to broadcast. And then all of a sudden they're attacked. Yes. That is exactly what happened.
So, I mean,
If it wasn't for the cell phone footage of the people that were there, we would have nothing but what Antifa said happened and what Sargon said happened.
And let's remember that a lot of the principles that these children are learning are from academia, right?
That's right. That's right.
So, I mean, it's okay for them to not just... They don't just wear black shirts. They fly the hammer and sickle.
Mm-hmm.
They aren't harassed by the universities. They aren't kicked out by the universities. They aren't
platformed. These guys weren't arrested.
Exactly.
These guys were not arrested. They assaulted.
That was set up.
They assaulted university police.
That was set up.
And put a guy in fucking prison. I'm not in prison, in the hospital.
A lot of the left don't like Yaron, not just for his objectivism, is the fact that he rejects socialism, because he grew up in Israel when Israel was socialist.
He's a Jew that refuses socialism. I'm just kidding. Let's go ahead.
And so they don't like him. Well, that's why the Muslims don't like him, right? Because he really talks out about how Israel should be.
Let's be honest. The Muslims don't like him because he's a Jew. Moving forward.
True.
I don't like him because I'm trying to corner the muddled mouth speaker, market. And have you heard this guy talk?
No.
He's got a hearing aid, dude. That's the whole reason why he talks like that.
Okay, whatever. He has some sort of speech impediment, man, when you listen to him. It's interesting to hear someone that he speaks clearly enough, but to have a job as a speaker, as a spokesman, when you don't speak clearly, it's a little odd.
Fair enough.
Yeah.
I'm not sure that's the free market pushing him up there. That might have been an internal decision.
No, he makes a lot of money.
No, he's good. He's good at what he does. He gives a good speech. He stutters as well.
I'm telling you, you watch his speeches, and walk away, see if you can disagree with what he says. For the most part, I don't think you would.
Well,
I don't argue. I can. To me, he sounds like a liberal with some libertarian bent. That's what he sounds like to me.
On principle, I can agree with him on a lot of things. But when I sit and run it through my mind as to how it will actually play out, I find a lot of problems in his theory being turned to reality. Such as a separation of government from the economic system. That can't happen.
But see, that's another show.
Right. We can do a whole show, and that's not what we're talking about at all. We're here to talk about the crackdown on freedom of speech in the United Kingdom. So that's not what we're here to talk about. Maybe we should move on. Are we rolling into one segment? These three getting blocked out?
Sure.
Or
we'll take a small break before we go into the next one. Yeah.
Okay.
I would say that's a crackdown on speech that they disagree with. Because it seems to me that, like I said, Antifa is free to fucking fly the hammer and sickle.
Yeah, Dave, I'm going to ask a question. How is that still allowed to be spoken in civil discourse, like socialism? I mean, we talk about, when someone talks about Nazism and say, I'm a Nazi, you already automatically have a gut reaction of who they are.
Yes.
I mean, because of what happened in the Holocaust. Not to mention the war, but I mean the Holocaust itself. But why don't we have that same gut reaction to socialism when it killed tens of millions more?
Well, hundreds of millions.
Yeah, by magnitude 10.
I would say this. Okay, so when you want to talk about the philosophy of communism or of socialism, that's a completely different thing. When you want to carry around a flag that was from the era of Joseph fucking Stalin, and you want to downplay that era of communism, that's where, the conversation, I'm not going to shut it down like they try to, but people should have like a gut visceral reaction to people carrying the fucking hammer and sickle around. You should be outraged when they do it. Just like you should be outraged when somebody carries a Nazi flag around and spews Nazi propaganda. Like, this is not a good, you want to have a debate of communism versus democracy versus capitalism, fine. Let's do that. We'll do it based on their theories, but there is no debate when it comes to the fucking hammer and sickle. There just isn't.
Okay, so I think about this interesting dichotomy on the way, left and right extremists are treated quite a bit. It's part of why I started the show here, with the thing that we have. So I'm starting to think that some of it comes down to like the initial shock that's created by explaining the very basic of the ideas, right? What was the basic idea of the Nazis? Racial purity and supremacy through genocide. That's there's going to be a very visceral reaction to that. So what's the core goal and principle of communism? Equal sharing and
No.
utopia. Well, that is the stated. That is what people say. Equity, equal outcomes. So it doesn't sound so murderous. Is the point I'm making, Ed?
But the only way to get there is to wipe out the proletariat wiping out the bourgeoisie. And that is stated point blank.
Okay, but no, there's two ways to it.
Okay, hold on.
Let me jump in there, Dustin, real quick. There's actually two ways to it. They can do it through democracy and then demand your stuff. Or they can do it through bloody revolution and take your stuff. But like I said, debating the philosophy is a lot different. Debating equal sharing in the bounty of society is a lot different than marching down the road with a fucking hammer and sickle. Go ahead, Dustin.
Okay, so the point I'm trying to make, and you both just proved it, you have to get into a discussion to explain why communism is a murderous ideology. The murderousness of Nazism, let's call it, is baked right into it. It is the icing on the cake. So what's Nazism about? Killing all the brownies. Like that's what it's about. If you were to present communism as what is it about? Killing the upper class and taking their shit. I think there would be, actually you'll find a lot of people who choose outright support that. But a lot of people that don't understand what communism is will be more revolted from that type of description, but that's not how it's described ever up front. No. In no academic setting is that, I'm not wrong. That's what they would have told me in my Christian school.
Yeah, that's exactly what it is. I mean, it's the wholesale slaughter of people and using people as a means to an end instead of a means in of itself.
It is the murder of the successful for the appeasement of the unfortunate.
Yes. Okay. And it doesn't do anything.
Okay, there you go.
And the equal sharing in misery.
Of course. Mm-hmm. Of course.
All right, I think I'm good on that topic, you guys? Or that part of the topic, anyways.
Yeah, we've run that into the ground. Yeah, let's let's move on.
Okay, we'll take a short break and we'll be right back. All right, we're back from the break, and Dustin went and got himself some tequila for this.
That was supposed to be our secret, Dave.
No, there are no secrets around here.
That's true.
Transparency, full transparency. I have no pants on.
Well, this sucks, man. This is a hard one. You know what? I'll say that I plan to talk about the UK tonight, and I pitched this to these two guys, and we actually dropped one of the three subjects. That's the one where I'm going to need to drink to talk about it.
Yeah, well, I'll be drunk before the show even starts.
Fucking, I'm sure. And we're alluding to the Rotterdam, and now what's the new city's name, guys?
Teffold, I think it's called.
Yes.
So there has been a second, just to give a little, I guess, taste of what's coming in a future episode. There has been another massive sex ring that's been molesting girls in a British town, an England town,
in a systematic grooming way. Gangs.
And not a few. Is it hundreds or is it thousands? Thousands of almost exclusively white and Sikh girls.
Yes. And police and social services knowing about this for decades.
And the BBC
and not doing it.
Covering it.
And they're covering it up. But that is a future episode. Today we are here to talk about a few alternative media characters. Dave, do you want to send this off or do you want me to do it?
Sure. No, I can do it. So
let's do it.
Like up front we're going to talk about Tommy Robinson, which is and Ed is his biggest fan. So I'll let Ed tell you guys who Tommy is.
Well, Tommy Robinson, really, his name is Stephen Lennox. He went by the moniker Tommy Robinson to keep him and his family safe from retaliation by groups of Muslims. He grew up in a place called Luton, about 22 minutes outside of London. And what he saw was...
Holy fuck, you are his biggest fan. Ed's like 22 minutes and 3 seconds outside of London. In first grade, he shit his pants. Holy fuck.
Third house on the left, down Fifth Avenue, his bedroom. You want to pass the first door, take a right down the hallway, give it 3 knocks, and he'll come outside and blow you. But go ahead, Ed.
No.
God damn it.
Well, Luton is known worldwide now because all the major Islamic terrorists in Britain have come from it. Like the 7/7 bombers came from Luton. Ajam Chowdhury and all of his gang, they came from Luton. And this has been a hotbed for Islamic terrorism for years. And in 2009, there was a parade for British soldiers coming back from Afghanistan, and many of them were injured. And there was a parade going through the town hall, and to the town hall. And what happened was a group of Muslims came out and calling them baby killers and bombers, and spit in faces of these veterans that were marching. And the police stood by and did nothing. So Tommy, Stephen Lennox, him and a group of his friends and cousins and family decided to do a counter protest a few weeks later, and that's when all hell broke loose. Basically, the police came and herded them off the roads, and basically they even cracked this one black kid's face and broke his teeth and a lot of things. Anyway, the jigs and royals, Tommy Robinson, aka Stephen Lennox, created what is known as the English Defence League. It was a movement trying to make aware of what was happening throughout Britain by Muslim extremists, and it was labeled far right. It wasn't for a long while. It has become parts of it have become right wing, far right now. Since Tommy's left, it has become really far right. And it basically, his whole stick is he's trying to really bring people to understand how Islamic terrorism is affecting the everyday citizen, and how the media and the police and government are covering up major crimes. In fact, Stephen Lennox's cousin was part of was groomed by a group. That's one of the reasons why he started the English Defence League. They found her wandering the streets at 3:00 in the morning, totally drunk and almost naked. That's how they left her. So this is something that is personal to him, and he's gone through hell and back with both the police and government about this, and we're going to discuss a little bit about that later on.
Is he part of Britain First?
No, he's not part of Britain First. He's never been a part of Britain First. That's the problem. People conflate the English Defence League with Britain First and group them all together as far right, which is not true. In fact, if you go back to the early footage of the EDL, there were some neo-Nazis that showed up, and the EDL started to fight with the neo-Nazis because they burnt the Nazi flag and really pissed off the Nazi party early on but now, since one of the reasons why Tommy left was the fact that there was far right people are starting to infiltrate the group. So that's one of the reasons.
Well, that's one of the major problems with speaking out against Islam is that it attracts the far right. So it's very easy for Antifa or for like SJWs to say, "Oh, you're with them over there because you have the same opinion, but you get to it from a different place."
Right, and I mean, if you really want to know more about Tommy Robinson, I recommend you go and see his speech at Oxford University. It's astounding and how he outlines exactly what happened to him once he started to go against Islam. It's not an easy ride, not an easy thing to listen to, especially when he outlines what happened through his community and what has happened to him personally.
Okay, so you said, unless I misunderstood you earlier, that since he has left the EDL, they have drifted to the right.
They did, and actually now EDL is now defunct. The components that had infiltrated it have broken it up into factions that are actually farther and farther right.
So they purely spiraled.
Yes.
Huh.
Now there are groups of people that were part of the EDL that weren't far right, and that's one of the reasons why they're no longer part of the EDL. Right? That's not just Tommy left, but a whole group of people left the EDL at once. Right?
Okay, so all the people that would be towards the center were purged by the. So it kind of what happened to the alt right, where they split into like this ethnocentric alt right and alt light, where they are not so concentrated on race but still carry a lot of the same values. You're saying something like that happened to the not ADO, the EDO.
Well, it's similar, yes. I mean,
okay.
Take Tommy Robinson for instance. He's further left than probably than most people think. I mean, he's a center left maybe. He's not racist in the slightest bit. All his mates, or as he calls mates, friends, they're all black, right? He has Sikh friends. I mean, he's not about race for him. It's about an ideology, which is Islam, right?
That's fair enough.
I would if I could just give one criticism of Tommy or Steven, his connection with Rebel Media.
He's severed that. He's gone independent now.
Okay, but the fact remains that he was with them.
Right. And
which is, you cannot deny that that's not right-wing propaganda.
Yes. But in Canada, yes, Dave, I agree. It is totally 100% right-wing. In Britain, it wasn't, because they were the first correspondents, really, from Rebel, and they did things Tommy's way, and that's one of the reasons why he left. They had conflict of interest, basically. He's gone independent now. So, anyway, go ahead. I agree with you. Rebel Media was a bad. I don't know why he went with Rebel, but.
All right. Onward and upward.
Okay, so now that we have a decent understanding of who he is, and it's my understanding that the way he entered into the British legal system is that after some of his activism had started, he had stayed at a hotel and he was arrested for like a 40-pound broken door at a hotel, and the person that a description that matched him was given as to the person that had done the damage, and he actually got some, I believe, time over that. Am I mistaken there, Ed?
Yeah, no, you're right, but that goes back to the first part, whereas when he was let's really delve into it a bit. When he was doing, when he did that first protest, they were arrested. 13 of 14 people were arrested. Tommy took off and stayed away. They broke into his house and tried to arrest him, but he wasn't there. But they were told that they were not allowed to protest again, and they were basically cease and desist.
Crazy.
So they went, they had another protest planned, and because these people weren't allowed to go to their city, they were banned from their city center.
Mm-hmm.
They weren't allowed there for 7 days a week, 24 hours a day. They weren't allowed to go.
How
to
do
the
you
city center.
ban somebody from a spot in their city?
That's what they did. So what they did was show up, and they did their protest, but they did it in balaclavas. so they couldn't know who was there. They put the balaclavas on because what had happened the week before is that a lot of Muslims in the area started targeting. They actually showed up to Tommy's home, his mother's house, and they had about 20 of them, and they had come to Tommy's house. So to protect the identities of the people that were in that, so that wouldn't happen to them, they decided to put on balaclava. If people don't know what that is, it's basically a ski mask over their face to do the protest. And all they did was march from one end of the street to the other, and then they all hell broke loose. A lot of people were arrested just for protesting, which is their right to do.
Okay, so I think we have a pretty good understanding of who Tommy Robinson is. So that brings us to the next part of this story. And I'm going to use a news article from news.com.au, far-right activists refuse entry to the UK. I love this clickbait subtitle. They have thousands of social media followers, but when this couple traveled overseas, they were shocked at how they were treated. Okay. Quote, all the cool people are being banned anyway, unquote. Like, oh, that's such a millennial response, being banned from a country. Travelers Brittany Pettibone and Martin Sellner have told of their horror at being detained and then booted from the UK on what they claim is an attack on free speech. The far-right activist with a large online following, Mr. Sellner, is an Austrian from the Generation Identity group. He actually founded the Austrian branch of Generation Identity. And Miss Pettibone is an American commentator. They were traveling to the UK with their friend, Canadian activist and YouTube personality Lauren Southern, when they were all denied entry. It wasn't all exactly at the same time. This is a little incorrect. Miss Pettibone and Mr. Sellner claimed they were handcuffed, separated from each other, and detained for 3 days. Mr. Sellner had planned to give a speech at Speaker's Corner in London's Hyde Park on Sunday and said, quote, that was my crime. Speaking from Austria, Miss Pettibone, who had planned to interview far-right figure Tommy Robinson, said, quote, it felt like they were saying, you're right wing, that's not allowed. Britain's Home Office said in a statement that the border force, quote, has the power to refuse entry to an individual if it is considered that his or her presence in the UK is not conducive to the public good. Oh, that's such an Orwellian phrase.
Just think, 450 jihadis are running there.
Yeah, can I just say one thing really quick? Tommy Robinson, I've watched a fair amount of his stuff. He has people from all different races within his inner circle. Mm-hmm. He has gay people within his inner circle, and these people that are within his inner circle aren't right-wing people. So we've come down to now one view within your own ideology. So if you disagree with Islam and you don't want your country to kowtow to Islam in any way, now makes you far right. Not just right, but far right. Even though you could in every other way be a liberal.
And the funny thing is, I'm assuming he's atheist. Maybe a semi-Christian, because he keeps laughing and make fun of Muslims, especially when he's debating them and say, listen, you want me to agree to Sharia because some magic man in the sky tells you to tell me that that's what I'm supposed to do. Like, that's not a right-wing position.
No.
You know what I mean? That's a lefty position.
Yes. And I should, if I had the time, I would go interview them because they can't deny me entry.
No, you're a citizen technically.
Yes.
You were born there.
Because you're born there. I was about to say, don't expect your Canadian citizenship to mean a goddamn thing in this.
No, but even if I wasn't born there, they still can't deny me entry because my entire family's from there. It's called a right of abode. So if Lauren's father had been born in England, and she was born before 1985. It's called a right of abode, so she has the right to a British passport.
Okay.
So anybody that wants to go and interview one of these people, and your parents are even from there, go get them.
So, Miss Pettibone here actually tweeted out the paperwork that she was given. I'm going to see if there's anything interesting in this here. You have asked for leave to enter the United Kingdom as a visitor for 5 days. For 5 days. Oh, great. The English are great with the English, I see. But as you stated in your interview, I have reasons to believe... But as you stated in your interview, that's weird. I have reason to believe that you are seeking admission to the United Kingdom to interview Tommy Robinson, a far-right leader whose material and speeches incite racial hatred. Islam's not a race. You stated at the interview that you will be filming your boyfriend, Martin Sellner, speech at Speaker's Corner at Hyde Park. Your boyfriend admitted at the interview to being a co-founder of the Austrian branch of Generation Identity, which is viewed in the UK as a right-wing organization. They're not even calling them far-right.
No.
Furthermore, I'm glad they got that right. Your boyfriend, I don't think that should be capitalized. Your boyfriend, have in his possession, God damn it. Your boyfriend have in his possession the leaflets with scenarios regarding possible violence at his speech. It's my understanding, guys, that these notes were about the possible violence from Antifa, the strapping young lads that caused the violence in the first section that we talked about tonight. A legitimate concern.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
I believe that you planned activities whilst in the United Kingdom, don't get fancy on us now, bear a serious threat to the fundamental interests of society and are likely to incite tensions between local communities in the United Kingdom. Oh, I wonder which communities. You have not sought entry under any other provisions under the immigration rules. I therefore refuse you leave to enter the United Kingdom. So... That had 1,500 retweets and 3,200 likes.
My question is, okay, if they're going to deny them entry, why hold them for 3 days? Why not just turn them around and send them back the same day? That's where I find this is very, very scary. What were they doing for those 3 days? Why were they holding them?
Well, I don't want to say this, but was the immigration officer Muslim?
Okay, so they have a very similar law in effect here that we have in the United States, where they have 3 days to decide what they're going to do with them. So I was actually held for 3 days without charge, no phone call, and not able to leave a cell until the police decided what they were going to charge me and my brother with, which was a misdemeanor.
Yeah, but
you see,
this is immigration, not police.
Well, I mean, police showed up.
Okay.
Yeah, no, but I'm saying like here,
I
if I went,
I get what you're saying. I get what you're saying.
The cop showed up, really?
The actual police I know showed up. Local police showed up with Lauren Southern.
Oh wow!
Yeah, and the really crazy thing about this is, if I was to go from say Canada to the United States, and the United States says, "Nah, you're not allowed to come in for whatever reason," they'd just say, "Go back across the fucking border." They would not, they would not be holding me for 3 days. Well, unless I was some kind of terrorist.
Or you had drugs on you or whatever.
Yeah. Yes, then you would be arrested for a drug offense. Yeah. But that's different.
Well, I mean, the border to U.S. and Canada, you can be going there and they can just be like, do you have something in your car? And you're like, no. And they're like, we think you do. And they can just tear your car apart and leave it torn apart and tell you to go the fuck home.
Yeah. But at least they don't hold you for 3 fucking days.
Yeah. I get what you're saying.
But anyway, so what happened after, Dustin?
Well, those two were banned from the United Kingdom and were escorted to the border.
Like banned? Like never to come back?
Banned, are not allowed to come back, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So to continue the article, perhaps it could be...
Can I ask one question real quick before you move on to the rest of the article? Do these people have criminal records, or have they incited riots, or do they have like a massive following of a militia behind them that I banned?
No. Yeah, they're banned.
What is their crime? What is their crime?
They're far right.
Well, it was association. It's guilt by association, which is what this article is about to do in the next paragraph.
They should sue them.
They are suing them. The three of them have actually, all three of them have launched or have said they're going to launch a lawsuit. They made a YouTube video about it. I'll link that as well while I'm loading myself down with links in the post edit here. Perhaps it could be to do with the time last year when his group allegedly took a boat into the Mediterranean Sea and targeted the Aquarius ship, which was being operated by the charity Doctors Without Borders. That is allegedly, and I'm sure they would say that they had refugees. Or migrants would be the word they would use. They were detained over the stunt, which was held to push their conspiracy theory that non-governmental organizations such as Doctors Without Borders are part of a human trafficking operation. Okay, so that would be why they say they interfered with the boat. Meanwhile, Miss Southern, who has more than 400,000 subscribers on YouTube, tweeted that she was, quote, officially banned from the UK for, quote, racism due to a poster she distributed about Islam last month. It had read, and I'm going to explain this, Allah is gay, Allah is trans, Allah is lesbian, Allah is intersex, Allah is feminist, Allah is queer, Allah is all of us. That is Keck level trolling. I'm going to have a little sip of whiskey to Lauren Southern. It's not whiskey, it's tequila. Okay, so Vice did an article a little while back that made the proposition that Jesus was a gay man. And so there's a brand of YouTube videos that the makers tend to call, quote, social experiments, where they pretty much, it tends to be them going out and doing provoking things to see if they can elicit a reaction. So she goes out to do what she described to be a social experiment, where they stood outside of, was it a mall or a mosque?
Mall.
A mall. Outside of a mall with placards saying, Allah is gay, Allah is trans, Allah is lesbian, Allah is intersex. Penis be upon him. And this is why she was banned.
And to make the best of it, how they nabbed her was basically under Terrorism Act.
Yes.
Section 7 of the Terrorist Act.
And I'm going to edit in, let's say right about here, a clip of London police, not London police, whoever the police was, where she was stopped, calling her father and saying that she was being held under a Terrorism Act. And of course, this guy is so polite. He's like, "Oh, but we really, it's not what it sounds like. We really don't suspect her of anything like terrorism, or so he pretty much admits that they're holding her under false pretenses, in the voice message that, or in the phone call. He didn't know who's being recorded.
At least the dad was smart enough to record the conversation, right?
Yeah, certainly. Yeah. So that's probably going to do good. Let's get to the clips.
Tip of the hat to you, sir.
Yeah, I mean, but can you imagine abusing this Section 7 of the Terrorism Act to do this in the first place? It's disgusting. They don't do that with fucking terrorists. There's 650 people that came back from ISIS.
Okay,
in the UK.
You're stepping on my lines here, buddy.
Oh, sorry.
I have some clips. Sorry. Okay, so let's get into the clips for tonight. We're getting late in the episode. Since Brittany Pettibone here was stopped, so that she could not interview Tommy Robinson, they just interviewed outside of the UK. And I want to play a little clip of that interview here.
About Islam or ready to take on Islam, I knew the consequences. I fully well knew people are going to want to kill me. I was ready for that. I don't know if I was really ready, but I was ready for it. But what I wasn't ready for was the full weight of the state.
Yeah.
Unbelievable.
But as you said, I think they made the worst mistake because they didn't take almost everything from you, leaving something that still made you vulnerable. They essentially took everything from you, creating what you are now and making you absolutely determined.
I'm a stubborn little, very
I know.
stubborn little. And so I took that deal, and my wife, everything was dropped against her. I pleaded guilty, so they got what they wanted. That's what you've got what you wanted. They then put me to prison, and I was sent to Wood Hill prison. Now, in between this 4 years of this case, I illegally entered your country. And I illegally entered your country in 2012. And I did that because in 2011, I tried to enter America. I was held at JFK Airport. I was deported. And the reason they gave me was that the British had told them not to let me in. They said, usually there's a bit of leeway here. We've been completely asked from your side, you're not coming in. Mm-hmm. Like, you're going back. So I thought, okay. So the next year come, I think it was the 10-year anniversary, maybe.
So the United States did it as well?
No, the United States was told by Britain not to let him in.
Okay.
And they told him, look, we give your country leadway in this type of thing. They're saying not to let you in, so we're not going to let you in. Which, by the way, shame on America for that. Oh, why aren't we letting him in? What has he done? What crimes has he committed? Like what is the body count? No one. Oh, just fuck you guys. That's the way I would do it. But I guess that's why I'm not running the country, huh? All right, back to the clip.
10-year anniversary of September 11th. And I wanted to go pay my respects, but I also felt that I wanted to give a warning to America. And I felt the warning was that important, that I knew what I was doing was illegal. I used a friend's passport, and I come to America, and I actually got in. I got told to go to another waiting room, and I went straight out of the airport.
Crazy.
And I gave a speech. And I knew what I was doing was wrong, but the whole way through it, I thought, if I'm morally right, I wish someone come to my country and warned me 20 years ago, warned our citizens 30 years ago, this is what's going to happen. Now, I've lived in Luton, I've experienced my whole life of Islam, so I come with a warning to America. Now, I wasn't charged by the Americans, I was arrested by the British 6 weeks later, and I was sentenced to 12 months in jail for 2 days in New York. Mm-hmm. On those 12 months, I spent 22 weeks in solitary confinement.
Which I can't even imagine how that affected you mentally.
No, you're only allowed to do 28 days on solitary confinement for mental health.
They switched you.
What they did is every 28 days they moved me from one basement of a prison to another basement of a prison to another basement. I went around 5 different prisons. And to be honest though, I was safe because I didn't see anyone. I didn't see anyone. I wasn't allowed to work, I wasn't allowed to go to church, I wasn't allowed to do anything. Every single right that every other prisoner has was taken away, and they used the excuse that I would be killed, which, fair enough, I probably would have been. But I was safe. So, years on, I plead guilty to this charge, and I go back into the prison system, and I'm thinking, well, my profile has risen. More people want to kill me than ever. I'll probably be locked away on my own again. And I wasn't. And I was sent to the maximum security prison called Wood Hill Prison, which houses some of the country's worst terrorists. And this prison, I was sent, my prison sentence, what I pleaded guilty for was that a form was filled out wrong on my brother-in-law's mortgage form. Mm-hmm. No one lost no money, no one got hurt. For that sort of offence, you go to a Category D prison in Britain, where you go home at weekends and your family can come in and see you. I went to a maximum security ACAT prison with terrorists, and almost instantly my door knocked, and a prison officer, we call them screws, a prison officer said, when they come to get you, do not leave this cell, your life depends on it. And straight away I was like, oh no, what now? And he's gone and he's come back, and when he's come back with 2 other prison staff. And he said, come on, Lennon, you're going on B-Wing. And I said, I ain't going anywhere. And he stepped in. He said, if you don't go, I'm going to arrest you. He was giving me a way out. Mm-hmm. I said, arrest me then. So he arrested me, And then because he arrested me, he took me to a punishment block. In that punishment block, I have to see the governor before I'm allowed anywhere else. So he arrested me, so then he's made me safe. He's come to see me later and said, "You know where they were taking you?" I said, "Where?" He said, "On B Wing, there's 5 Muslims." 6 months before this, 5 Muslims were caught in a car with IEDs, guns and bombs and suicide notes on the way to kill me. Yeah, they got 30 years in prison. I sat in their court case and watched as they all got sentenced to 30 years. Here I was being given to them in a prison system. And he said the woman, I looked at the governor's woman, the woman who made the decisions. I said, how can this be made? How can
exactly?
There's duty of care for your safety in the prison system. They have a duty of care. How can this happen? He said, well, he gave me the lady's name. Her name was Rachel. I wrote her name in my book. And he said, she'll be done for mandatory manslaughter, but you'll be dead. And I said, okay. So the next day I'm waiting to see the governor. My solicitor comes to see me. I go and meet my solicitor. I come back after the meeting with my solicitor, and there's a waiting room similar size to this. And the door opens. And as I go to walk in the room, I see beards. Because our prison system, so Americans understand, because it's going to happen to your prisons as well, if it's not already happening. Mm-hmm. Yours are racially divided. It's going to become religious. Yeah? Every prison, our prisons, like this prison, is basically an ISIS training camp. Mm-hmm. All the Englishmen, all the black men, everyone is converting to Islam. The beard is your sign of superiority and your sign of protection. You're part of that gang. Now, I've seen the beards, so I haven't even bothered to sit down. I've stood with my back against the wall. I've waited to hear the door lock. They locked the door, and then it's just, that's where I lost my teeth.
Yeah, you have fake teeth.
Yeah, so thanks, guys. Got some nice teeth out of it. But I was beaten badly, and to be honest, the Muslims in that room didn't know I was coming out in that room. I could tell by their faces. As soon as I walked in, I looked at their faces, and they've all looked at each other like, they've just given us. And I was beaten, and then I asked the prison officer afterwards, why would staff do that? And because I felt like a lot of the staff sympathised with me. And he said that what you have to understand is many of these Muslims in this prison, like I was only doing 18, what did I get? 18 months in prison. I was only doing 18 months. These men are doing 44 years. Mm-hmm. Now, for them, they will hurt the prison officer. Mm-hmm. They will hurt the prison officer if they don't do it. So they run the prison. So that happened, and then from this sentence, and it wasn't just this sentence so I went through that sentence. So basically I had to fight my way through in many situations, and then I've come out of custody from this prison sentence. And then I've sat down with probation. We have a thing called probation where I have to sit with them once a week. And I've sat down with probation, but just 2 months before the end of that prison sentence, I had a visit. And I got told it was my lawyers. And when I went there was 2 men who were younger than me sitting there. And they said, "Can we chat to you?" I said, "Who are you?" They said, "We've come from the Metropolitan Intelligence Bureau. It's a secretive organisation based in Scotland Yard." I said, "Okay, what do you want to talk about?" He said, "Well, you can help us. You can help your country." Yeah? I said, "How can I help you?" He said, "If you worked with us to unite the right." To unite the right. I said, "Yeah." He said, I said, "Hold on a minute. You're now making an approach. I'm sat in here. You've absolutely kippered me.
Destroyed your life.
You've destroyed me. And now you want a favour from me. You want me to help you." And he said, "Yeah." I said, "I've got no interest in being anyone's bitch. I'm brought up in a working class background where there's a law and rules and you don't talk to anyone." So right. I said, "That's never going to happen. Yeah, that's never going to happen." And I said, and then...
So, if I understand what he's saying there correctly, they asked him to be controlled opposition.
Mm-hmm. So basically what they wanted them to do is to unite both Britain First, the EDL, and all the right-wing groups. And if a Muslim terrorist did something, that they could use him to control the reaction.
Yeah.
Of the right.
Right.
So that's what they were using him for. That's what they wanted him for.
So I can imagine why the United Kingdom would not want this interview to happen.
No shit.
But here's the thing, guys. It happened. And we're back to the Streisand effect. And for those who don't know, Barbra Streisand built a very expensive house. Didn't want anyone to know about it. Wanted it like blocked out of satellite pictures and things. Word got out, so everyone checked out her fucking house. And here we are doing the exact same thing with this. We're fine. Who's Tommy Robinson? Who is this fucking, douche guy with the girlfriend from fucking Austria? Who cares? Now, though, everyone that's interested in this subject knows their name, knows the name of that organization. And here's the thing, agree with them or not, this is not how you stop them. And frankly, if they're aligned with Tommy Robinson and what they want to do is to reverse the Islamization of the United Kingdom, I can't blame them. Or other parts of Europe. I cannot blame them. Rape went up 20% in London this year.
And let's just talk facts. We have Rotterdam, where 1,400 girls
17.
were. Well, no, 1,400 that came out first.
Okay.
1,400 that were proven that were systematically abused for decades. The police, knowing this happened, and arresting people, girls that for drunken disorderly when they were in a house with 7 Pakistani males, and not doing a damn thing to the dudes. And this, what Tommy Robinson represents to me is a reaction, a common reaction of people that are frustrated with decades of this abuse going on, and they're finally lashing out. And that's what I see this as. And the government, yeah. Well, it's not just that. There's black people in the group. There's gay people in the group. There's veterans. This is a movement to reclaim not only British as a British identity, as in a group of cultural people, but is to reclaim a people that have been abused for decades by a system that is foreign to them. And it's what anybody would do in the same situation, is to respond to such an abuse of power.
Mm. Okay. Somebody else?
Yeah, so my original statement of tonight, my bias statement saying that it was a death of Churchill era free speech. I don't know if you two are familiar with Churchill's views on Islam.
Yeah, I remember. I know.
I've heard a few things.
You've heard a few things.
Yes, so, I believe he said that Muhammad was the greatest man that ever lived. Yes. And that there is but one true God, and his name was Allah. Yes, go ahead.
Yes. That it wasn't a despicable religion, and that the practitioners were beasts. No, he didn't. It wasn't along those lines. I think that again, it's like you have a government that is fully willing to because it's not just that it's impeding on the British heritage and culture. They actually have Sharia courts in England.
100 of them, yeah,
for Muslims. Let that sink in, Dustin. Sharia courts in England, where they settle disputes between Muslims.
I know. But it's a choice where the person decides, and they know that they can.
Give a flying fuck. If it's a choice.
I agree with you 100,000%. I have a couple more clips here to go through. One of them is real short. It is the mayor of Muslim. That's a Freudian slip there. The Muslim mayor of London, Sadiq Khan, and he's been grilled on a talk show about how loose the immigration policy is, the borders are. I think this is a particularly interesting clip, and I want to play it for you guys.
1 second.
Okay.
They do call London Londonistan, by the way. That is a fact. It's colloquially known as Londonistan.
That's funny.
If you're a jihadi who wants to go to Syria and fight, against British troops on some occasions. We just let you calmly come back in. Only one of them is currently under one of these control
and yet
orders.
400 have come back out of the 850 who've gone to Iraq or Syria to fight. How do we know how many? I mean, obviously this is a UK problem. You are mayor of the capital city where the most recent terrorist attack has taken place. How many of those 400 have come back to London?
The estimate is just over half. So when you
Where are they?
When you look at the...
No, but seriously, where
How
are
are we
they?
letting people back in to the UK who haven't just been trained, they've actually fought, potentially against our troops? How are we letting them back in without knowing exactly where they are and what they're up to? Because out of all the thousands of people that we're concerned about, surely those who've actually gone to fight are the biggest risk.
Well, that's one of the reasons why it doesn't make sense for the government to be cutting resources from those...
Where are they? You're the mayor of this capital city. Where are they?
I can't follow 400 people.
What? That's why.
Listen.
That's why resources shouldn't be like. What the fuck is he talking about? That's exactly why motherfucking resources should be put towards it. Like we're having this problem here too because we have a Muslim dick sucking leader as well. So I mean, like it's insane to live in a country where it's okay for people that go and fight against your own countrymen and allied troops can just come back and not be targeted for surveillance and might I dare say the same kind of treatment that Tommy was subjected to with your door being knocked on every day saying, what the fuck are you up to?
Okay. Go ahead, Ed.
Just going to say, like, they know that there's 25,000 radicalized Muslims, at least 25,000 radicalized Muslims in the UK. That's what they know of. They have 3,000 under 24-hour surveillance 7 days a week. That's 3,000 that they suspect could at any moment have cause a terrorist attack. Then they bring home ISIS fighters.
And don't watch
on top of that.
And then don't watch them.
Pretty much. I mean, they're costing billions of pounds every fucking year just watching 3,000 homegrown jihadis. Not alone the fucking ISIS people coming back.
Are you guys, this is going to sound like a tangent, but I promise it's not. Are you guys familiar with the idea of a Judas goat? Let me tell you a story, fellas. So sailors traveling across the Great Blue Oceans would come across the Galapagos where they had those giant delicious turtles, okay? And
why are you racializing the ocean? Why you got to put a color to it?
Okay, Dave. So the turtles and the goats. So they would pick up turtles to make turtle soup, and they would drop their goats off on the island. Okay, and then they would come back through later and pick up goats that had been there breeding and herding on the island to carry on with them in their journey. So what this caused is a devastating effect on the ecosystem where the goats are eating all the vegetation and there's no natural predators, and it's actually causing like coverage for other things to be lost. So just mass death. So the way we solve this is, well, we're going to go and murder all the goats, right? Right. Okay. So we go in and murder all the goats, but then you can't find all the fucking goats. Okay? Particularly as you get the numbers thin, it gets harder and harder to find them. So this is the solution we have come up with. We find a group of goats, we kill all the goats but one, and then we tag it with a GPS. And then we let it go and go find more goat friends. And then when it finds more goat friends, we show up in helicopters again with machine guns and murder everyone except for that guy, and then we chase him down again. I could see letting terrorists back into your country as Judas goats. Oh, no, you can totally come back. It's cool. And then we follow them. We find out who all their friends are, and then just out of here. Or, whatever. I'm not going to advocate for death. But let's say we build a very large prison for all these fellas outside of the country.
We have one. It's called Guantanamo Bay.
Okay, brilliant. We round them up. We send them to Guantanamo Bay. We fit them with an orange suit that is always slightly too small, and they can live out the rest of their natural-born days there, as far as I'm concerned. That is the only way I could see letting something like this go on. It's ridiculous.
But they're not even under surveillance. Like, where are they? You can't answer that. I mean, like, I'm sure that that was Morse Pearson. Or Pierce Morgan.
Pierce Morgan.
Yeah. Pierce Mortem, is that what you said?
Pierce Morgan.
Okay. I'm sure they weren't asking for, like, specific address. They were probably looking for, yes, we have them under surveillance.
Yeah, or they're in X part of London, like the East End of London or the West End of London. You're talking to the mayor of a city that has been inundated with terrorist attacks since the 7/7 bombings. I mean, this is, and they're not allowing, like, they're not tracking these people. He doesn't know where these people are to. I mean, you think the mayor of London would know, right? You'd think.
You'd be wrong.
Yeah.
You would be wrong. Okay, so we talked about Lauren Southern for just a moment there. We're getting a little late in the recording. I'm going to play the audio from... okay, so Lauren Southern is doing a series on the ongoing issues in South Africa, where she actually goes through and interviews a lot of mainly white people that live in South Africa.
There's issues in South Africa?
A few. And you know, we got a comment from a listener about last week's episode where we didn't go into depth enough. So I'm going to do two birds with one stone here. This is an interview with a lady that does crime scene cleanups in South Africa, works with the government. And they're going to talk about some of the murders that have happened in South Africa. And you're noticing this clip, she is very careful about what she says because she is working with the government. So this is what the South African government is okay with getting out. That's something to keep in mind too. So this can't be too propagandic. That's one of the reasons I picked this particular piece. There's going to be a little bit of bullshit up front, guys. And you know, I'm going to say real quick, we don't give trigger warnings in this, but if you have kids listening, this might not be the best segment for them. The music drives me crazy.
During my investigation into South Africa's farm murders, I've heard plenty of stories, but there is one woman in particular who has seen it all. Eileen de Jager is one of the famous Blood Sisters, a pair of crime scene cleaners who have dealt with the aftermath of more farm murders than anyone else. I wanted to find out if some of the more gruesome stories I've heard about could even possibly be true, and what the Blood Sister herself thought of the crime wave sweeping South Africa.
You never get used to cleaning up crime scenes, especially farm murders. You don't get used to it. The torture that we find have been done on these farm murders are unbelievable. We found pieces of nails being pulled out. We found hands being removed from bodies. We found people raped, brutally murdered, babies, children. The farmers trying to protect their families, and there's just no stopping. The farm murders are brutal. So Lynn and I went to this farm murder scene in the northwest, and we came upon this beautiful white house, and everywhere you looked was blood splatter. Since from where you walked in, there was blood against the curtains, the walls, the paintings, the floor, and you could see where two babies were murdered in the bathroom. So they were definitely attacked while giving the babies a bath. One of them actually survived and crawled all the way from the bathroom. He was about 2 years old. Crawled all the way from the bathroom to the main bedroom where the mom was murdered. She was dragged to the bedroom, raped and killed, and then the one baby was murdered in the bath and the other one got out and crawled. And he died there by her side. That was a very terrible one. Another one that stays with me is in Johannesburg, just outside Johannesburg. We had a farm murder where 5 people came in. It was arranged by their domestic worker. And they drowned the 12-year-old boy in boiling hot water. So we had to remove the skin from the bath as it was peeling off him in the hot water. That was a terrible scene.
What's particularly bizarre about the crime in South Africa towards white farmers is much of it is played off as simply robberies gone wrong. But one has to wonder how you can accidentally torture an entire family, accidentally cut someone's eyes out, or accidentally rape them for days. The crimes in this country seem to take on a far more wicked nature than those in most of the world.
It's not about robbing or stealing. It's been classified, especially on the crime stats as well, that it's attacks or robberies, burglaries. But because there is no statistic for farm murders currently in South Africa, the brutality of the farm murders in South Africa is undescribable. The things that you see on farm murders, the torture, the time it took to do the killings, the brutality and the ongoing torture is unbelievable. People's eyes are being removed, parts of their bodies, limbs, being raped with objects, not even by themselves. I think if you look at the worst movies ever made, it's not really a patch against what is really going on there.
I wanted to find out what could motivate such gruesome attacks, but given their sensitive work with the South African police, a state-controlled force, Eileen made it clear she wasn't able to answer certain questions.
But 90% of the increase we found is due to unemployment, racial discrimination, and there's no hope. If you don't start your own business in South Africa, where are you going to work? There's no work.
Racial discrimination against who, if you don't mind me asking? Careful.
Yeah, I have to be careful.
Somebody off camera just told her to be careful.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
because
I have to be a little bit careful.
We work very closely with government. Racial discrimination against...
No, it's okay.
We have to be so careful.
Even if she couldn't comment on this, with the government nearly ignoring the issue altogether, and certainly not releasing research on it, one can only speculate on motives. But one thing that is becoming certain is that things are getting worse.
They started weekly. We would get one call a week to come and assist at either farm attack or farm murder. Now it's daily. It's definitely daily. It's increased unbelievably.
Hearing these stories from the Blood Sisters is not an easy thing to do. Believe me, I have these...
I think that's enough.
Yeah, no shit.
That's mind-boggling.
So the accent was a little thick there. To be clear, the 12-year-old boy was drowned in boiling water. So they put him in a tub, held him down, and pulled.
Yeah, that story's been out since 2009. That's a pretty famous one.
Yeah. So, on this, a defense, and we talked about it in the Wayward Atheist. The name of them escaped me, but a defense group has been
the
training.
Security. Yes. Oh, no, not the security faction, but the militia is what you're talking about now? Yes,
a militia has been formed. It's been headed by a former ANC activist, and they claim to be the largest non-state militia on the globe. So if it ever goes public, and I think that's probably the reason it has stayed underground in the way that it has been. Like the dog whistling from the elected leader there, Julius, I believe his name is. He's
not an elected leader. He's the leader of the Communist Party.
Oh, my bad. There's another fellow too that's the elected leader that has songs about shoot the boar, which is Dutch for farmer. So I think that surely I would not be surprised if this was not somewhat part of why she was given a hard time. You see, and the news story that we read earlier was not correct. The three of them were not traveling together. The couple was traveling, and then she was coming in later to meet them. But she actually was coming in by train and came in actually through the route that migrants use most frequently. And when they scanned her passport, it was flagged. So they had been waiting on her.
I'm surprised in that audio clip that we just listened to that they didn't mention that. So a security force, like a legit security company, had set up a number for farmers to call, because the police, when they were calling the police, they either weren't coming or they weren't coming in time. So they had success with the security company because they were ex-military, black ops types of dudes, and they would get to the farm quickly, and they were able to stop some of the murders, but the government actually shut them down and said that they weren't allowed to operate anymore.
Yeah, I guess it's because they were sensitive to what she could say. That's why she didn't.
Yeah, probably.
Yeah, as far as that goes, there have been reports that the murderers come in with signal blockers now, so that cell phones can't make outward calls to even the police. So even if the government hadn't stepped in, the militias, let's just call them what they. I mean, that's a militia rolling in and murdering and torturing people.
Mm-hmm. It has
Jesus,
to be, because your average criminal in South Africa isn't going to have the money to buy a goddamn cell phone blocker.
No.
Shit, I don't have the money to buy a goddamn cell phone blocker. No, I wouldn't be surprised if the government was furnishing them.
Yeah, I would, or the Communist Party, one of the two. Anyways, we're way off topic here.
We're way off time too, so let's wrap it up, gentlemen.
All right. Ed,
you had something on the tip of your tongue?
No, I'm just really fucking spinning after listening to it. That'll fuck you, blow your mind, wouldn't it?
Yeah, of course. So, anyways, that's why they didn't let her into England, most likely, because they didn't want an interview like that getting out.
Well, and the Allah is gay thing, I'm sure didn't do her any favors.
No, for sure.
Yeah. Let's be honest, he is pretty fucking gay, though.
Well, he's very obsessed with cock and balls and what you do with them.
And gargling them. Yes.
Allah is gay. Allah is trans. Allah is lesbian. Allah is intersex. Allah is feminist. Allah is queer. Allah is all of us.
Isn't that just like a holistic message for everybody?
It's a proverb.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Really good.
Yeah, that's like maybe if you don't know how to count, it could be a haiku.
Mm-hmm. Well, I would just say that I hope that my country never doesn't let people in based on their views.
Hear, hear.
And just to let everybody know, Hyde Park, 3:00 tomorrow, Sunday. They're going to deliver Tommy Robinson's going there to deliver a speech that was supposed to be given by who, Dustin?
Let me pull up my note here. By Martin Sellner.
And so what they're claiming is that it's going to take back or reclaim Speaker's Corner for Britain. It's going to be, I say, recorded on every media site out there, and not just mainstream, but mostly by people with cell phones and YouTube channels. So keep a lookout and keep an eye out for it.
Will do.
That'll be after this comes out. So I guess go to YouTube and start Googling, because I'm sure there'll be a stir.
Son of a bitch. And I remember we did a segment a while back about free speech in Britain, and we were saying that a man was arrested for quoting a Winston Churchill speech.
That was a European Union candidate. I don't know that was in the UK. No, it was in the UK. He was just... Was it? So they have, when you're... they have two different political voting. So, like, you can vote for somebody to go to the EU, and you vote for the people in your country as well. Okay, I got you.
Because you have a seat in the EU, because the EU is supposed to be democracy based. It doesn't really run that way, but yeah.
Okay.
So that's how you get arrested in the UK, is you quote Winston Churchill.
Oh, and just another update. You know that guy that was sent to prison for flicking bacon at a mosque?
Also known as my hero. Awesome. Go ahead.
He was found dead in his cell. They don't know what's going on. They don't know if he killed himself, or again, if he was fed to the lions like Tommy was. I can understand fear.
But is Hillary Clinton there? Because maybe he suicided himself. No, that sucks. That's very suspicious, isn't it?
Yeah, like, we don't know. There's no information saying if he got killed or if he hung himself or whatever. It didn't say. It just said he was found dead in his cell.
Well, he was obviously killed. He would have said suicide. Right?
Imagine being sentenced to 12 months in jail for flicking bacon.
Yeah, that's insane.
At a mosque.
That's insane. It's because they're fucking scared of the retaliation from the Muslims. That's why. That's why they're doing this.
That seems likely. I couldn't make it as declarative and definitive as a statement as you did there, Dave, but I definitely think that's highly likely.
Well, look at it. Okay, and I know you want to shut down, but think about this. They had terrorists that committed way more terrorist acts in Britain than the Muslims have. They fucking squashed the IRA. They tortured them. They locked them up in Belfast. They fucking brutalized them to the point where the IRA members that were in jail went on a hunger strike and didn't eat until they basically fucking died. Yet they're allowing this type of shit to just run rampant in Britain. It has to be they're scared of retaliation, because with the Irish terrorists, they fucking squashed them. Like, no human rights issues, no this, no that, they just fucking squashed them. So tell me why they wouldn't do the same here.
I think, remember they said September 11th they wanted to change the world. They did. Every country in the world is cowering now to Islam, and we got to stop.
Yeah.
There's got to be a line drawn and said enough's enough. Let's take back our countries.
Yeah.
Sorry.
All right. That's enough of this depressing shit.
Called someone for me, and they called my father, and I was just thinking to myself, I am the worst daughter on earth. It is like 4 or 5 a.m. here, and they're calling my dad to tell him I've been detained in Calais. Like, what is he thinking right now, you know?
What did they say to your dad?
So my dad actually recorded the call.
It does record the conversation.
Yeah, I don't know. Do you want me to play it now, or?
I'd love you to play it now.
Okay.
How are you? It's PC Hughes here. I'm calling from France, actually, in Coquel. I'm calling just with regards to your daughter, just to let you know at the moment she is being detained. She just wants you to know that she is being detained at the moment under a power called Schedule 7 of the Terrorism Act. She's just being questioned at the moment. She's all in order. She just thought you'd like to know that where she is.
A Terrorism Act?
Yes. We're just asking a few questions of her at the moment. Just so you know, it sounds worse than it is. It's not that we suspect her of being a terrorist or anything like that. We have a power here at the port to stop anyone who comes through, given certain criteria, and we can stop and ask some questions with regards to them. And should it pass the hour point during that examination, we then have to detain them and give them their legal.
Oh, anyways.
We then have to give them the legal. So, he's...
You've been listening to the Everyone's Wrong podcast. You can find us on our homepage at Spreaker.com/everyone'swrong. You can also find us on iTunes and YouTube by searching for Everyone's Wrong podcast, or you can listen to us on your podcast app of choice by importing our RSS feed. You can follow us on Facebook.com/everyone'swrong, or join our closed Facebook group by searching Facebook for Everyone's Wrong After Hours. You can tweet us at wrong_pod or email us at everyone'swrongpodcast@gmail.com.